Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the City Commission meeting tonight, and would just ask that you please silence or turn off your cell phones. And as a reminder, our meetings are televised every day on Channel 2 at 6 p.m. for YouTube viewing, and also at midnight. And at this time, I'd like to go ahead and give the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a silent prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, at this time I'd like to recognize Garrison Commander Colonel Dwayne Mosier and Sergeant Major Ryan Russell.
The podium would be great.
Do you need to go down there?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for allowing us a moment here. I just want to say very quickly that Command Sergeant Major Ryan Russell and I have a philosophy in our command team tenure here at Fort Leavenworth that life is a people business. And as a result, we need to recognize people when they do incredible things. And those incredible things that help relationships flourish and organizations come together and communities to succeed are some of those things that we need to take time deliberately to say thank you for. Today we would like to recognize two individuals. I'm going to ask Christy and Jennifer. They're already in. And if I may, I'm going to ask George to come on up here, take the podium, take the microphone. He's going to read a little excerpt for us, and Scott will take a few pictures if that's okay. Can we please have you step up here? Is this on camera? Can we all fit right here? Please turn around to the group and to the home audience. No big deeds going on.
So in the Army, you would say publish the orders or attention to orders, but you're civilian, so I will say, this is to certify that the Secretary of the Army has awarded the Public Service Commendation Medal to Christy Lee and Jennifer Davern for exceptional service as a Convention and Visitors Bureau team and friends to Fort Leavenworth and the Army. Their legacy of support to service members and their families, veterans, and surviving families are evident in their willingness to include the Fort Leavenworth story for all visitors who come to the area. Christy and Jennifer's selfless service, dedication, and exceptional leadership reflect great credit upon themselves, the City of Leavenworth, Fort Leavenworth, and the United States Army. Signed, Dwayne L. Mosier, Colonel, Special Forces Commanding.
So officially, I hand this to you, Christy. Thank you so much for all that you do. And we'll pose with a quick picture. Thank you. And then Jennifer.
You're trying to stop blushing.
One. There you are. Hold on to that. We'll take a quick picture here too. Congratulations.
Thank you, Colonel. All righty, at this time, I want to go ahead and do an employee recognition here for years of service, and just kind of like to go through and call out the names, those that have given their years of time here to not only serve the city government, but really serve the people of our community. If that will go through the list here, we've got Recreation Supervisor Nancy Baker, Fire Chief Gary Birch, Police Officer 2 Cole Brummer, Police Sergeant Sean Flynn, Telecommunications Specialist Kelly Frick, Telecommunications Specialist Robert Haney, Police Sergeant Ryan Hopp, Telecommunications Specialist Peridot Lucas, Police Sergeant 1 Sean Swisshelm, Streets Equipment Operator 2, and this is now for 25 years of service, We have Streets Equipment Operator 2, Robert Gilbert. Police Lieutenant Stephen Herring. Fire Captain Brandon Pettis. Zoning and Code Administrator Kathy Rogers. Park Superintendent David Summerla. We could just give those employees a round of applause real quick here. And in addition to that, we'd like to honor these associates for their milestone achievements as follows. For 15 years of service, Fire Captain Russell Baker, Evidence Custodian / Crime and Analyst Leona Nickel, Telecommunications Specialist Shayna Bergery, and for 20 years of service, we have Administrative Assistant PD Detectives Linda Hopp, Fire Driver and Operator Jeremy Bennett, and Firefighter James McGee. And we do sincerely thank you for your many years of service. And with that, we'll move on to old business, consideration of previous meeting minutes. Any comments from anyone? If not, just need a motion.
I move approval of the minutes from the November 14, 2023 regular meeting.
Second.
All right, motion's been seconded. We'll begin voting with Commissioner Leonhard.
Aye.
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 Motion passed 4-0. Second consideration ordinance. This will be ordinance number 8227, amending Chapter 20, Article 5 of the Leavenworth Code of Ordinances.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and Commission, there have been no changes since the first reading of this. If there's any questions, City Attorney David Waters or I can answer those, but there have been no changes since first reading.
Any questions, comments?
No questions.
Okay.
No.
All right, we'll just do a roll call vote then, starting with Commissioner Bowder.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, new business, public comment. Sarah, do we have anybody?
We do not.
Okay. With that, we'll move on to general items and consider the transient merchant permit waiver request for military collector show at Riverfront Community Center. Sarah?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners, before you this evening for consideration is a request for a transient merchant permit waiver to use the Riverfront Community Center on February 17th, 2024 for a military collector show. Mr. Trevor Brown, the applicant, has held the show at the Riverfront Community Center for several years. The show typically has 40 to 50 vendors, 300 to 400 people attend, both local and out-of-state vendors, and they do sell their items. The city code does prohibit transient merchant permits on city property, which would include the Riverfront Community Center. However, a waiver is allowed should the commission grant one. So all fees for the use of the facility and permits would still apply. The waiver would simply allow the sale to be held at the community center. So tonight, the request before you is to grant the waiver request of a transient merchant permit. And with that, I'll turn that over for any questions you may have for me.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
None.
No questions on that. This is,
Do we have anybody here, Sarah?
Mr. Brown is here if you have any questions for him, along with Tammy Metzgar, Riverfront Community Center Manager.
Sure, and any comments you'd like to offer about the upcoming event?
Well, again, I do like to thank you for giving me the time. This is a show, as I said, it's been more than 20 years been held. It was started by my father, who was a instructor up at CGSC for many years before his passing. So this is just to continue on with that. And we do have many people who do seem to look forward to this show and come to see it every year.
All right, thank you. And if no other questions,
I move that we grant the waiver of a transient merchant's permit for use of the community center for the military collectors show on February 17th, 2024.
second.
I second.
motion's been seconded. We'll begin voting with Commissioner Leonhard.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed 4-0. Next item, cancellation of outstanding city checks.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and Commission, this is an annual process that we go through at the end of the year in accordance with KSA 10-816A. It's any check that has been outstanding for a period of 2 years or more will be canceled by the City Commission. The city has 33 checks that meet that criteria. Once again, we do publish this list And if anybody does come subsequently, we will reissue them a new check, but it's a sound practice to cancel those. Many of these are related to planters to our housing. Once we published the list, I think we had a couple people come in and get them. We couldn't quite track down the US Geological Survey. That was a fee. That was a fee that the city was required to pay through a process. And so at that point, you issue it and it's really up to them at that point. So again, it's published, and if anybody comes to us, we will reissue the check.
Okay. Pretty straightforward on that. Any questions from anyone? All right, if not, we just need a motion.
Commissioner Leonhard, I move to approve cancellation of checks that remain outstanding after 2 years of issuance, and that these balances, in accordance with KSA 10-816C, revert back to the city fund upon which such checks were drawn.
Second.
Okay, motion's been seconded, beginning voting with Commissioner Bowder.
Aye.
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 All right, motion passed 4-0. Moving on to next item 7, consider updates to city fee schedule.
Mr. Pro Tem and Commissioners, each year we review city fees across the board. That doesn't always result in city fee increases or city fee decreases. There's also removals of city fees, clarification of language, and then again at the end of the year, as we're doing now, we bring those changes to you. So I am going to ask each department head to talk about that. We do scrutinize each of these carefully. I know the commission and the public is very cognizant of fees. And so as we go through these, each one has a reason that it's on here tonight. And so I'm going to start with the police chief for the first one, which is the increasing the fee for dog adoption.
Mr. Mayor, Pro Tem, and Commissioners, the police department is asking for a fee increase from $85 to $95 for the adoption of an animal specific to dogs from the animal control facility. And the $10 fee is specific to adding the element of microchipping to a dog that comes in and then is subsequently adopted by someone. Right now, the $85 includes the animal being spayed or neutered and getting vaccinations. A new element we would like to add is microchipping for a couple of reasons, one of which it is becoming pretty standard practice for shelters and facilities to microchip dogs. And then two, we've had some experiences where animals have been adopted and then for a variety of reasons they jumped the fence or they've escaped or some more nefarious circumstances where they might have been abandoned by the owner. And microchipping helps us relocate that animal with its owner. And so that's the purpose of the $10 increase. It is generally about $7 or $8 to have that done by a vet. And so the $10 fee is specific to that.
Gotcha. And Chief, just out of curiosity, how many dogs do you guys get annually that come in and need to
I can look
tend
at get
to?
specifics off the top of my head. We run about 1,000 to 1,100 animals through the facility every year for a variety of reasons. And we're several hundred, 300-400 animals I think get adopted annually when we get litters of puppies or animals that are surrendered, that sort of thing. I'll get the specific numbers, but off the top of my head,
That's fine. No, I was just curious. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that.
I think that's reasonable.
So we'll at the end, we'll go through them each individually, but I did want to talk about each one. So while the chief is here, I'm going to go ahead and have him talk about the third one on there, which is the increased fee for the off-duty police officer.
Ladies and gentlemen, the police department offers a program called off-duty overtime, which is that organizations in the community, individuals, businesses can hire an officer to work their specific event for security or traffic, something of that nature. The fee currently is $35, which was established in 2003. So it's been about 20 years since we've made any changes to that. The $35 is generally designed to cover the cost of the officer, their overtime rate, and a little bit of extra for fuel and maintenance on vehicles and that sort of thing. And so we took a quick look around and we think it's time to raise that. I don't think the $35 is covering, an officer, for example, that's been there for 5 years. Their overtime rate's probably a little higher than that, expenses. We took a look at a couple of other different places. Lenexa PD is $50 an hour. Overland Park is $90 an hour. The Kansas City, Missouri Police Department on average is about $45. So we think that's about right where to go to, given that it's been quite a bit of time since we raised that fee.
Okay.
Any questions of the chief before I switch directions?
No. I mean, 50 doesn't even cover, honestly, inflation in 20 years. So, yeah, I don't think that's absurd. So thank you for that, Chief.
So I'll handle item 4, which is just the removal of the refuse bags from the fee schedule. We don't offer those anymore, so just to clean up the fee schedule, we removed the refuse bags from it. And then the final one, the 5th one, before I turn it over for the land disturbance permit, the increasing sewer service charges, that reflects the commission's already approved 5% increase. Those fees or rates live in the fee schedule. So when through the budget process, we have a 5% increase on the sewer rates, that just reflects those in the fee schedule. And then so the final one, which is a little bit more complicated, I'm going to bring up our Public Works Director, Brian Faust, to talk about the land disturbance permits.
Well, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Commission. The changes in the environment section do three basic things. First, we are looking to clarify in the fee schedule the type of work that we're talking about. Instead of just stating regulated land disturbance activities, which most people probably don't know what those are, we separated those out to 1, general excavation and grading, basically if you're grading your yard, or 2, building construction related work. So that's the first change. The second proposed change requires that all commercial building-related construction where land is disturbed, they would be required to pay for a land disturbance permit. A considerable amount of staff time is spent reviewing erosion control plans as well as field conditions during construction. The third item is fees for our larger disturbances are shown increasing by $100. Disturbances of 1 acre or more require both a city-issued land disturbance permit and a notice of intent from the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. With the notice of intent, there is a requirement for an improved stormwater pollution prevention plan. The plan has to be followed along with regular site inspections to ensure erosion control measures are working as designed. While the developer or contractor is required to do the inspection, runoff from construction site impacts the waters in the city limits, and the EPA requires communities to ensure that these sites are in compliance. This involves site visits documenting conditions before and after rain events, verifying and documenting the needed repairs to erosion control measures are done, and collecting and reviewing inspection reports from developers. There is a considerable amount of staff time spent complying with these requirements. While the increase of $100 does not cover the time and equipment costs, it definitely helps get us closer. It should be noted that we are not proposing a fee increase for a land disturbance permit for a single-family home or for general site work of less than 1 acre. Be happy to answer any questions.
So these line items were all under one column, one heading before. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much everything was under regulated land disturbance activities.
Got it.
And
So they're the same amount except $100 more.
Correct.
Okay. That was confusing because it looks like zero. I mean, there's nothing in there before, so I didn't know.
Yeah, this whole environment has changed. This whole land disturbance permit, the program that we've instituted over the last 5 or 6 years was related to KDHE and EPA visits to the city of Leavenworth to ensure that we're in compliance. So we're still trying site work less than 1 acre. So if you were doing something at your home, it's generally less than 1 acre, especially inside the city limits. That permit would still be 0, but we still have to get that to monitor. And so the work at those bigger sizes would be related to a project. And if you're building a project that's more than 5 acres, $350 should be well within the development costs of that.
Okay. Well, that explains it then.
So that's what I was going to ask. So, Mr. Faust, that basically you're seeing a huge rise in administrative time it takes to these days, right? For
Correct. I mean, from an EPA perspective, we do have to verify that the site's in compliance. And so that requires every 2 weeks you have to inspect the site, and within 24 hours after a half-inch rain event. And so for a time for an inspector to go out there, drive out there with his truck, evaluate the site, document deficiencies, do those types of things. A construction project can take quite a bit of time. So, big construction project may take 6 months to get completed. We have a tremendous amount of staff time. So I did some quick calculations before the meeting, and using minimum salaries, no benefits for about $550 for an average commercial construction site. So
Gotcha.
$250 or $350. I mean, it helps. It doesn't get us there.
Right, okay. And just out of curiosity, do we know what the total impact that would be from a, I know it's fee structured, but from a revenue standpoint, what's that gonna do? Because it's about, what is it, 1, 2, 3, about $500?
1,800 is.
It's not going to make a huge impact, honestly. I mean,
Okay.
it depends on the activities.
Okay.
Okay.
Any questions? Ed? Commissioner Leonhardt, any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay.
And so that's all we had. That's all we decided to bring to the commission.
Okay, well, with that, appreciate everybody that came up and shared. Just need a motion.
Commissioner Leonhardt, I motion to approve updates to city fee schedule.
Second.
Motion's been seconded. I will begin voting with Commissioner Leonhardt.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion passed 4-0. Moving on to resolutions, item 8. Resolution B 2352, authorize serving of complimentary alcoholic liquor at Main Street event Alive After 5 for 2024.
What's it going to be our city clerk on this item?
Hello. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners, before you this evening is a resolution to authorize the serving of complimentary alcoholic liquor and/or cereal malt beverages to members of the public during Leavenworth Main Street's Alive After 5 events for 2024. Leavenworth Main Street will strictly control the activity, and should the commission agree with the request, the governing body must approve the resolution authorizing the event as required by Kansas Alcohol Beverage Control. Tonight, we're seeking approval of the resolution, which would allow Leavenworth Main Street to continue holding their Alive After 5 events. And we have been, just a little background, the commission has been passing this resolution since about 2016. So it seems to be a very popular program.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any comments from anybody?
Question, there doesn't seem to be anything in this resolution that says, I as a Main Street member, business owner, can't serve 3 cans of beer real quick on top of a shot. There's no limit on how much they can serve. Is that right? I mean, except the limit of, well, I as a business owner have to buy the stuff.
David.
I'll take a look here real quick.
Yeah, I don't know if the statute calls that out.
I might be able to help with this one. I don't think there's typically a limit associated with it. It's a sort of toggle switch question. You can either do it or you can't. And then if there are problems, then we would come and sort through it. But it's simple yes or no. And then I think business owners typically have to be responsible. I don't think it's designed to serve a bunch. And that's not generally been our experience. They've been generally will be.
Yeah, the statute doesn't have any provision on that. A lot of that is self-regulated probably by what we call premises liabilities laws, that, your responsibility if something could happen on the property.
Yeah, they are
But
responsible.
Yeah.
Kansas is not what we call a dram shop state, so generally it is not a state that puts the burden on the drink server
Right.
for liability. It's generally a state that says that there's an intervening fact, and that being the consumption of something, but the statute does not address that issue.
Okay,
Thanks, Chief.
And I don't think we want it to.
yeah. I don't think if I were a business owner, I'd be wanting to serve a whole lot anyway.
No.
Because
Well,
it
no.
costs me money.
Oh, that's true.
And the possibility of, somebody goes out and does something.
Gets drunk and then,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Okay, any other questions from anybody? If not, just need a motion on that.
I move approval of Resolution B 2352 as presented.
I'll second that. And we'll begin voting with Commissioner Leonhardt.
Aye.
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 Motion passed 4-0. Moving on to bids, contracts, and agreements. Item 9, consider award of bid for copier lease and maintenance agreement.
Turn this over to Penny Holler, the Assistant City Manager.
Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners, IT Manager Carol Charity will present this item, and I'll be here for any questions.
Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, the city's current copier contract is due to expire at the end of November. In preparation of this, the staff opted to do a sealed bid and search for a new contract. We received 5 qualified bids from 4 different vendors. When we were reviewing the bids, staff took into account the monthly lease payment, the cost of copying per black and white and also color, and also the response time averages from calls for service. Taking all these factors into account, the low bidder from the bid was Toshiba Business Solutions with an average monthly cost of $2,085.47. The estimated annual cost would be $25,026. This cost has already been incorporated into the 2024 operating budget. The total estimated cost for the 60-month contract is $125,128. Staff is recommending that you approve a 60-month lease and maintenance agreement with Toshiba for 13 copiers as presented.
These are located throughout the city.
Yes.
That looks reasonable. I looked over that. I just
Yeah.
negotiated a contract with Toshiba a couple of years ago with United Way, and we found that it was cheaper in the long haul, to lease and
Yes.
use their ink and all that stuff than it would be to buy machines and
We
then
did
have
look into
to.
that, and yes, it is
Yeah, a lot
definitely
cheaper.
a lot cheaper.
And they
to
provide the
lease
ink
them.
and all that,
And then
so.
at one point, I think we actually purchased them, and that was fun.
Well, service costs are huge.
Yeah.
Service costs are really expensive. So.
Oh, yeah.
We had
Keep
really
it up on
good
top of the list.
turnout on the bids, really,
That-
really
I think it
competitive,
looks
a lot of
reasonable.
response on this
Yeah.
one.
That's
The
good.
number of units.
I'm glad there's one sector of the economy that's bidding a lot. No, I don't have any questions. Thank you, Ms. Charity. Good there. Ed, anything? Commissioner Leonhardt?
No.
No, I don't have any.
I move approval of the 60-month copier lease and maintenance contract with Toshiba Business Solutions, not to exceed $125,128.
Second.
All right, motion's been seconded. We'll begin voting with Commissioner Bowder.
Aye.
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 All right, motion passed 4-0. Next item, first consideration ordinances, first consideration ordinance Kansas Gas Franchise Agreement.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and Commission, I'll turn this over in a second to our city attorney. This is the end of a 10-year agreement and start of a new one with Kansas Gas, and this has been a process that with the city attorney and I have been working on for several months, and so there was quite a bit of cleanup, I think, from the last contract, so I'll turn it over to David for.
Yeah, I mean, some of the cleanup frankly just had to do with, we had just spent an amount of time negotiating new contracts, franchises with Evergy, for example, and wanting to try to get the forms consistent among our main utility providers so that staff can kind of generally know how they all lay out, that they generally work out the same. Certainly, there's some difference between the distribution of electricity and distribution of gas, so there are specific terms on that. The biggest differences I would say that you would see with this franchise is that there's a request for 10 years to 15 years from Kansas Gas Service. Staff did not see a problem with that. The other negotiated point was raising the franchise fee from 5% to 5.25%. Kansas Gas, in exchange for that, asked that certain other fees that are typical for right-of-way permits not be charged to them. They prefer having the predictability of the 5.25%, so they generally know exactly what they're going to be spending rather than fees that might be coming up. I know staff looked at the numbers, calculated what the 5.25% was going to be, and that was going to put the city well above frankly, what they would have been receiving anyway, so the city gets probably a bump in revenue from what is
That's my next
standard
question.
on that way. And in exchange, Kansas Gas Service gets the certainty that they want as to, they can budget and plan, that's about how much we know. So staff felt that that was a fair exchange and that the numbers did actually work out in the city's favor in that regard. Otherwise, the franchise has the standard provisions about working in the right-of-way, restoration of property, insurance that has to be maintained, what are the provisions for if lines need to be removed and notices and those types of provisions. And those are all generally very consistent with what we negotiated with Evergy, again, so that we can have kind of everybody on the same playing field.
Cool deal. Well, thanks for negotiating another quarter point up, so that's cool. I don't have any questions. Commissioner Bowder or
No,
Commissioner
no
Hinkle?
questions.
No.
It just requires a
No, no
Pretty
questions.
straightforward.
Okay. Then consensus to move forward? We all have that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thanks, Mr. Waters. And then second item here, first consideration of ordinance for special use permit to operate fire station in RMF zoning district.
Julie Hurley will handle the next two items.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Pro Tem, and Commissioners. As you said, this is a request for a special use permit to operate a fire station in a residential multifamily district. This is the location for fire station number 3, 2805 2nd Avenue. As you know, this has been approved for replacement through the CIP process, and that is currently underway. Fire Station 3 was built in the 1960s before we had zoning regulations in the city. So once zoning was put in place, that property ended up zoned residential multifamily. Fire station is considered a government facility, which is allowed in the RMF zoning district through the issuance of a special use permit. Since that was constructed before we had zoning regulations, there was never a special use permit approved for that, and it was allowed to continue operating as an existing non-conforming use. Our regulations do require that if a structure devoted to a non-conforming use is damaged or destroyed by more than 50% of its fair market value, the building shall not be restored if the use of such building is not in conformance with the regulations of the zoning district. With that being completely removed and rebuilt, that obviously destroys it by more than 50% of its value. So we just need to get that special use permit in place in order to rebuild it and keep operating a new fire station facility in that location. The Planning Commission did consider this item at their November 6th meeting and voted 4-0 to recommend approval of the special use permit. Staff would recommend approval of the special use permit based on the analysis and findings that are included in your packet, and I can answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. I do not have any questions really.
Special use permit is like from now till forever, right?
Yep, so once that's in place, it goes with the property.
But they're non-transferable. Now, nobody else is gonna operate a fire station in the city of Leavenworth, but
Right.
for like a daycare or something like that, it
Yeah.
is, it applies to the owner.
Correct.
So all our zoning regulations started in 1960.
I want to say it was 1966, and the fire station was built sometime around then. There's a lot of things in town that got built kind of around then that didn't really conform with zoning since it was so new, and this just happens to be one of those things.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No.
All right, we just need a consensus to move forward.
Yes.
Yep,
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right. We move on to first consideration ordinance for special use permit to allow assisted living facility in R1 to 9 zoning district.
Okay, thank you again. This is for 2103 Metropolitan Avenue. The applicant Robin Smith of Piece Apart Senior Living is requesting again the special use permit to allow the operation of an assisted living facility at 2103 Metropolitan Avenue. This is an existing single-family home, and what she is looking to do is sort of a new model of care that senior living facilities are moving towards, where it's more of a residential setting, where there are just a few staff, a few residents, and so it's more of a home-type setting, not the larger assisted care facilities that we might be used to. So she has been licensed by the state of Kansas and approved for up to 3 residents. So she's indicated that in addition to those 3 residents, she would have 1 to 2 staff permanently there at the residence with those folks. And then there is an existing detached structure on the property, and that would be used for additional kind of therapy services, adult day activity programs, so they could be having some additional folks coming to the property during the day, not residing there, not staying overnight, but just coming and visiting the facility for additional services. The property does have an approximately 120-foot deep, 22-foot wide driveway. It's pretty long. They've got an additional parking area to the rear of the property as well as out front, so there is ample parking for anyone that might be on the property at any time. Again, the Planning Commission did consider this item at their November 6th meeting and voted 4-0 to recommend approval of the special use permit. Staff does recommend approval of the special use permit based on the analysis and findings included in your policy report, just subject to the condition that they obtain an active registration of an assisted living facility with the state of Kansas, and they keep that current certificate supplied to us.
And no issues with neighbors, I see no comments.
Correct, we had one neighbor who came and just had a couple of questions about it, but we haven't had any concerns from neighbors that we've received.
Okay.
How long has this new model kind of been deployed out there, you know?
You know, I'm not sure. The applicant, she was at the Planning Commission meeting. She's not here tonight. She talked about a number of these types of facilities that are in Johnson County and other areas of Kansas City. I've started to kind of see them myself. This is the first one in Leavenworth County that I'm aware of. So in terms of how long it's been in place, I'm not sure. But I have started to hear kind of anecdotally that this is becoming more of a trend with folks looking for.
There are homes for special needs in our residential homes.
Yes.
In our community, but just not.
Yeah, not just for the senior living.
Senior living. I like that idea.
Okay, any other questions from anybody?
No.
Just need a consensus to move forward? Do we have that?
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Yes.
Sounds good, thank you.
I was at the Planning Commission meeting.
We'll move on to the consent agenda and turn that over to Commissioner Leonhard.
Okay. I move to approve claims for November 10th, 2023 through November 17th, 2023 in the amount of $502,617.35. Net amount for payroll number 23, effective November 17th, 2023, in the amount of $386,126.57, includes police and fire pension in the amount of $7,134.65.
Second.
All right, the motion's been seconded.
One second.
We'll begin voting with Commissioner Bowder.
Aye.
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 Oh, you too.
Me too.
All right. Motion passed 4-0. Thank you. All right, that's closing comments. Mr. Kramer.
Yeah, just want to provide a little bit of clarity on the schedule for the rest of the year for anybody listening or for YouTube or for Leavenworth Times. So December 5th, a week from tonight, we will have a special meeting simply to swear in Commissioners Hengula and Bowder and Commissioner-elect Pittman. That is the only thing on the agenda that night. December 12th is a regular meeting here at City Hall. On the agenda that night is to select the mayor pro tem, and the financial claims reviewer for 2024, as well as a number of regular items as we hit the year end. We have quite a few things to wrap up. We do have a study session scheduled for December 19th here, and then December 26th. At the December 12th meeting, one thing that will be on the agenda is a commission action to cancel the meeting on December 26th, the day after Christmas, which is traditionally what we do, that second meeting in December. So that's I just wanted to clarify our meeting schedule for December. Other than that, I don't have anything else tonight.
Great.
Thank you. We'll go around then. Commissioner Leonhard?
Yeah. I just want to say I'm thankful and blessed that I had the opportunity to serve the community. To my constituents for their great support, thank you. The city staff for always taking the time to answer my questions. Sorry. And always their hard work. that great group of people. And I just want to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year 2024. And thanks for everything.
Thank you. Merry Christmas to you too. Commissioner England?
All I would do is ask everybody to keep our mayor and his family in their prayers. He lost a sibling, last Friday or Saturday?
Right, yeah.
And there'll be what's called a wake and funeral on Saturday, this coming, starting at 11 o'clock. If you can make it, that'd be great. But keep them in your prayers. That's all I have.
Thanks, Ed.
I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving, and I don't have anything else tonight. Thank you.
All right. I want to echo what Commissioner Higula said about Mayor Wilson, and definitely prayers go out to him and his family. Definitely had a good Thanksgiving time and looking forward to Christmas. And I want to say a special shout out to Mr. Faust and your team for keeping the roads all clean over the weekend. I was impressed. This is definitely not Missouri. So anyway, so good job to you guys, and I hope it all went as you planned. So, all right, with that, I just need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.